Have you ever looked at your business journey and thought, why am I totally stuck? You're smart, you're putting in the hours, you're following every single rule in the corporate playbook, but you're just hitting a brick wall. Well, welcome to this explainer. I want you to just take a deep breath right now. Because if you've been grinding away, doing everything right, and still feeling completely trapped, you are definitely not alone. And honestly, it is not your fault. Today, we're going to dig into the real root of that widespread problem, and I'm going to walk you through a proven, step-by-step solution to completely break free. So let's get into it.
It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? You read the textbooks, you study what the giant corporations do, and you try to map those exact best practices onto your own startup or passion project. And nothing. Crickets. Well, the hard truth is, those traditional rules are actually designed to maintain the status quo at massive established companies. When you're trying to build something totally new from the ground up, those rules are downright toxic. But there is a way out. By adopting a specific set of unconventional, rule-breaking mindsets, you can completely bypass those roadblocks. Let's actually compare these two worlds side by side. Look at this stark difference here. On one side, you've got the old-school corporate dogma. Strictly stick to what you know, obsess over your product features, and always wait for the green light from regulators or bosses. But then, on the other side, we have the counter-conventional entrepreneurial mindset. And this is where true freedom and massive growth actually live. It's all about saying yes to the unknown, obsessing over problems instead of products, and acting right now.
To really bring this to life, we're going to walk through a simple, clear, 6-step path today. We'll look at saying yes, putting the problem first, thinking narrow, asking for the cash, borrowing assets, and acting right now.
Let's kick things off with mindset number 1, the power of saying, yes, we can.
Traditional business school strategy will always tell you to stick to your core competencies and never stray. But let's look at a real-world example of why that is a complete trap. There's a Brazilian entrepreneur named Arnold Correa who built this massive business called Atmo Digital literally by just ignoring that rule. He started out in event management. Pretty standard, right? But then a client with 260 stores across Brazil asked if Arnold could install TVs in their training rooms and set up a satellite uplink for live broadcasts. Now, Arnold knew absolutely nothing about satellite tech. He hadn't even worked outside his home city. But what did he do? He just said, yes, we can do that. And you know what? He figured it out. Later on, Walmart came knocking and asked if those same screens could go on the sales floor to run targeted ads as customers walked by. Again, Arnold just said, yes, we can. He completely reinvented his business 4 different times simply by saying yes to the unknown.
Which brings us to mindset number 2. Problem first, not product first.
Big companies are entirely obsessed with products. They'll tweak the color of a detergent or release a new cherry-flavored diet soda and call it innovation. True entrepreneurs do the exact opposite. They completely ignore the product and obsess over the problem. Take Jonathan Thorne, for example. He was looking at surgical forceps, the basic tools every surgeon uses. But there was this huge, frustrating problem. The forceps would stick to human tissue. Imagine a plastic surgeon doing incredibly delicate work on someone's face, and the tissue is literally sticking to the tool. It completely ruins the outcome. So Jonathan developed this cool new silver-nickel alloy to stop the sticking. But when plastic surgeons just weren't adopting it fast enough, he didn't obsess over his product. Instead, he pivoted to look for a much bigger problem. He realized neurosurgeons operating on the brain and spine had an even more critical need. When you're removing a brain tumor, you absolutely cannot have healthy brain cells sticking to your tools. By shifting his focus entirely to that massive problem, he built an incredibly successful, life-saving business.
Moving right along to mindset number 3. Think narrow, not broad.
Corporate wisdom usually dictates that you absolutely have to target a massive, global market from day one. But here's the thing, trying to sell to everyone usually means you end up selling to no one. Just look at how Nike got started. Phil Knight was a runner, and Bill Bowerman was his coach. Back then, all running shoes were basically just made for sprinters running on smooth, flat tracks. But Knight and Bowerman noticed a super specific problem for a very narrow group of people. Elite distance runners don't run on tracks. They run on dirt country pads. They step on sticks, they sprain their ankles, and they get terrible shin splints. Nike didn't start by making shoes for everybody in the world. They started by engineering lateral stability and extra cushioning specifically for elite distance runners. They completely mastered that tiny, narrow market first, and only after they perfected that did they expand to tennis, basketball, and eventually the whole globe.
Now for mindset number 4, asking for the cash.
We all know cash is the absolute lifeblood of a startup. And conventional wisdom says, hey, build the product first, then try to sell it. But look at this staggering number.
$500 million. How on earth did Tesla pull this off? When they were planning the mass market Model 3, they didn't just go to a bank and borrow billions to build a factory. They asked their customers to fund it. Nearly 500,000 consumers put down a $1,000 deposit each. Do the math on that. That is $500 million in cash, just sitting in the bank, completely funding the engineering, the tooling, the factory setup, all before a single Model 3 was even manufactured. That is the mind-blowing power of a customer-funded model. You don't always need a venture capitalist. Sometimes, your customers are the ultimate investors.
Let's combine our final two mindsets, 5 and 6, extreme resourcefulness and the audacity to just not ask permission.
Here is a very comforting truth to keep in mind. You do not need to own everything to get started, and you certainly don't need everyone's approval. Let's look at how two totally different companies applied this. First, a company called Go Ape wanted to build these amazing treetop adventure courses in the UK. Instead of buying insanely expensive land, they realized the UK Forestry Commission already owned massive forests and desperately wanted to increase their visitor numbers. So, Go Ape simply borrowed the government's trees, their parking lots, their restrooms. All they had to do was show up and install the ropes and harnesses. Brilliant. And then there's the audacity of not asking permission. In the corporate world, every single new idea has to clear a giant team of lawyers just to make sure no regulations are ruffled. It takes months to get a yes, but literally a second to get a no. When Uber started, they wanted to build a taxi company with 0 actual taxis. If they had gone to city regulators and asked for permission, the answer would have been a fast, resounding no to protect the existing taxi industry. So, they didn't ask. They just built the tech and got on with it.
So, we've broken down all 6 of these powerful, rule-breaking mindsets: saying yes to the unknown, obsessing over problems, thinking narrowly, getting cash up front, borrowing assets, and acting without waiting for a green light. But the real value of this explainer today isn't just in knowing these concepts, it's actually applying them to your own life. So I want to leave you with one final vital question. Which of these 6 mindsets are you going to use today to overcome your biggest roadblock? Seriously, I want you to drop your answer down in the comments below right now. I read them all, and I'd love to see how you're planning to break the rules. If you found real value in our explainer today, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And please, share this with a friend or a fellow entrepreneur who is feeling stuck and needs a breakthrough right now. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll catch you next time.